I'm about to show you a video on the working conditions at a company which produces iPads in China.
Believe it or not, this woman's never seen an iPad before, even though she toils more than 60 hours a week making them. She's like many migrant workers from rural China, spending endless hours putting on screens but never glimpsing the finished product. Here's another first. This is her only meal at a restaurant since she started at Foxconn, a company that produces electronics for the world's leading brands.
It's very interesting.
This sure is a change from the factory where she works, sleeps and eats. She doesn't want to be identified. We'll call her Miss Chen. If she's caught speaking to us, she says she will lose her job.
When we were being trained for work, they told us that if we accept interviews, we will be investigated for criminal responsibility according to law. It's really a big deal.
Miss Chen is one of more than 1 million workers at Foxconn in China. She works at this factory in the city of Chengdu, installing iPad screens. The company makes the iPads, iPods and iPhones that has made Apple a commercial and cultural icon. But there are no I workers here, only we workers. And Miss Chen says we work whenever Foxconn says so.
They use women as men, and they use men as machines. There's another way of saying it. They use women as men, and they use men as animals.
Well, this is the front gate of the Foxconn factory. It's as far as we're going to be able to go. But every day, literally tens of thousands of workers go through these gates. According to the worker that we spoke to, people don't tend to stay very long here. If they have any complaints, well, the attitude of management is, if you don't like it, you can leave.
Only weeks ago, workers threatened mass suicide at a Foxconn factory in Wuhan, manufacturing Microsoft products. Microsoft said in a statement it investigated and found the matter related to staffing assignments and transfer policies, not working conditions. The company noted that it works to ensure employees are treated fairly. Foxconn says it resolved the dispute. But in 2010, the company made unwanted headlines when more than a dozen workers killed themselves, forcing Foxconn to improve its factories. The company tells CNN it boosted pay and provided counselling. Foxconn now boasts of its on-site healthcare and worker living conditions, which it claims are among the best in China. Apple's been criticised for its links to overseas factories. It maintains it would not work with companies that do not respect their employees. In a recent email to staff, Apple addressed critics. It says, quote, "We care about every worker in our worldwide chain." Miss Chen, though, says it very differently.
Do they care about us? I don't know. At least I'm not getting any of that care.
Though Foxconn insists its workers are treated fairly and their rights fully protected, workers' rights groups say the company favours only a privileged few, executives, managers. For the many thousands of others, it is run with a military culture. They point to unpredictable hours at the whim of management, complaints of inadequate breaks, and workers not even allowed to speak on the factory floor. As we found, they're not too keen to speak outside either. We had to meet Miss Chen at this restaurant. It's a rare outing for her. Foxconn takes up every waking moment.
It's so boring. I can't bear it anymore. Every day was like, I get up from work and I go to bed. I get up in the morning and I go to work. It became my daily routine, and I almost felt like I was some kind of animal.
Hers is just one tale, but it's an experience repeated elsewhere by other disgruntled Foxconn employees. She says she will leave soon to go back to college. She has no desire to return here.
When I graduate, I don't want to work in Foxconn.
You don't?
Oh, don't.
But there is always the lure of that iPad.
You like it?
Oh, I like it. I want to have one.
You want to have one?
Maybe one day I have enough money.
Enough money? Right now, Miss Chen says she earns less than $1 an hour.
These people were forced to commit mass suicide just to get the attention of the world, because their government doesn't give a shit about them. Apple or any of their subsidiary companies doesn't give a shit about them. Nobody gives a shit about them. Why aren't people boycotting Apple's products? Why are people still bubbling and obsessing over the new iPad, which is just going to be released? I was just reading a news article that says to see a new iPad is to want a new iPad. That new screen is so much better, and that's why thousands of people around the world are lined up outside Apple stores Friday morning for a chance to buy one of their own. In fact, analysts expect that Apple will sell up to 3 million units by the end of the month. But what should you do if you already have your working iPad at home? Can you justify buying a new one? We're just kidding, of course you can. You'll need to figure out what you do with your old, still functioning but not quite as awesome iPad first. We suggest selling it or handing it down to a young person. Rob Griffiths of PC World checked the resale price of different iPads, blah, 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 blah. Ugh. It just sickens my stomach to listen to the giddy joy and fascination that these people have with Apple's products like iPad. It makes me freaking sick to my stomach. There's people, every time I go into a Walmart, I get sick thinking of all the people, you know, all the people's blood, sweat, and tears that went into creating this low-priced crap for these, you know, people who are just unconscious, completely unconscious, you know, human eaters who just eat and breed and shit. Something needs to change now, and it is changing. You know, people are starting to wake up to this kind of thing. They're starting to not want to support this kind of abuse. And that's a good sign. So why can't we start by boycotting Apple and iPad? Steve Jobs claimed to be so enlightened. He read, you know, autobiography of a yogi every year apparently, and he talked about Bill Gates needing to have gone to an ashram when he was younger. He was too uptight and yada yada yada. So if if Steve Jobs is so enlightened, why is he producing iPads from slave labor in such brutal conditions that there's a saying, and I've heard it more than once, that in these factories women are worked like men and men are worked like animals or machines. It's not very enlightened, Mr. Jobs. And Obama, you got Obama saying in one of his recent speeches that these jobs aren't coming back. Obama, really? I mean, are we as a country just okay with slave labor? I thought we got rid of slavery 150 years ago. Apparently, we don't mind slavery now, as long as it's not in our country. Even though a lot of these, you know, wage slavery jobs working at McDonald's and Walmart and such are light slavery. At least in historical slave times, the master was liable for the slave's health and food and house. Nowadays, you can just pay a person a meager slave-like wage and kick them to the curb, and they can live in their car in the parking lot and just have enough money to pay for food and bills. We're living in a world gone out of control, and I don't want to blame anyone, and I don't think you should either. I don't think we should necessarily point the finger at Jobs and say, bad guy. Like the theme of a couple of my recent videos has been intimating, it's our fault. We're the ones who want the iPad. Like this, you know, giddy bastard who wrote this article who's so, you know, overexcited about this slave labor product. I mean, really. That's the problem. The problem is that people are materialistic. The problem with materialism is that you're looking to feel whole by stuffing iPads into that hole in your heart. But you're never going to feel whole by taking an iPad produced by slave labor and shoving it into your heart. You get bored with it. It's just a friggin' little toy. It can't compare to reconnecting with yourself and God and the absolute truth, reality. As long as we're still fascinated by these little, momentary distractions of toys, until we can pry ourselves from these materialistic things and be self-satisfied without crap, then this is what we're going to continue to get, people. This is our corruption in action, being reflected by the corruption of those in executive charge of these companies. If we all collectively refuse to pay money to people who produce products with slave labor because we were more self-satisfied and didn't need their crap, their material crap, or if we wouldn't accept it standing down and we would all do something to set it right, come together and figure out some way to produce these things ourselves, which doesn't rely on slavery. Why can't we do either of these things? Why do we just keep allowing these people to do this? It's a rhetorical question because the answer's already been given. It's our own fault. We need an infrastructure, a business, agriculture, technology, everything. We need the infrastructure to serve mankind again. We need to take away the strength of the infrastructure to be this global control matrix, which only serves a select elite who are privileged to have risen to their capacity while screwing the rest of us. We need to take back our individual sovereignty as human beings by realizing our natural, God-given gifts of freedom and liberty and equality and brotherhood. It's going to take an overall transformation of the soul as well as of the society in order to make this stop. But it has to stop. This cannot keep going. Mass suicides in China over producing iPhones and iPads. Is it really worth it, people?